Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, frustrated baker as well. Welcome to my 100th The Food Enthusiast Show. Wow, what a fun and enlightening trip it has been. And it's all thanks to you, those who watch the live shows and ask the questions, and those who watch the shows up on the archived Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. J Moore Living turned the tables on me and interviewed me with the same questions I asked my guests. And that interview is up on jmoreliving.com with a composite picture of the 100 shows. It was pretty amazing how they did that. So if you're interested in me answering the questions that you hear me ask all the time, go to jmoreliving.com and it'll show you the article, 100 episodes. So my guest today is the beautiful, the lovely Tanya Thomas, executive pastry chef, partner in Heirloom Food Group, managing partner in Modern Soul Conversations, where she co-hosts an Instagram interview show with her husband called at the site at Black Food Folks. Tanya and her chef husband Dave have made major impact on reclaiming the narrative around African American cooking and soul food traditions. Welcome, Tanya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And congratulations on your 100th.
Well, thank you. And I don't look a day over 99. So, Tanya, what's on your plate today?
We're actually preparing. We actually have our first wedding of 2022 this weekend.
Great.
So that's what we're actually working on for this week.
Now, is that going to be at your site?
Yep, it will be here. It will be here at the Sinclair. Yes.
Okay, great. Everybody, she has a fabulous site. We're going to get into that. Before I forget, let's go back to the beginning. Who or what put you on the culinary path?
Ooh. I would say, believe it or not, I'm gonna have to say the school system.
Really?
And my grandmother. I actually went to school in Baltimore County. So I went to Woodmore Elementary, and I went to Johnny Cake. It was Johnny Cake Jr. I'm showing my age. It was Johnny Cake Jr., not middle. And the names how it's changed. And then I went to Woodlawn High School. But in junior high school, we had home economics. And when I took that for the first time, I was like, oh, I really think I like cooking. It's something I had not done until we had did it in the class. And it evolved into me playing around with things a little bit at home. But I don't know how I got steered. I think it was my grandmother who said, well, since you like cooking, would you bake me a cake? That was the start. And I would ask her, what do you love? What is your favorite cake? And her favorite cake was coconut cake. And that's what I made for her. And that was just the beginning for me, just dibbling and dabbling and cooking and baking, but still not the chosen path of what I wanted to do. It was just something that I just love to do for fun.
Well, I find that our hobbies tend to lead to careers. At least it did for me, for you, your interests. So it's funny you mentioned Johnny Cake Junior High. I went to Johnny Cake Junior High too. It was an annex to Sudbrook, but I was there for 1 year. So we went to the same school together. I'm much earlier than you. Okay, so I got to know you and your husband, Dave, when you had Herb and Soul. Now, I knew it when it was a restaurant, but it started off as a carryout. Can you tell us more about what you were doing at Herb and Soul?
Yes. Well, like you said, it started out as a carryout. When we started Herb and Soul in 2012, that was when David said, I want to, have my own restaurant. He had been working in restaurants with other people, and he was actually asked by someone to partner, let's do this. And he came back and said it's going to be a carryout. And my response was like, really? A carryout? You know, that was, he said, but we got to start somewhere. But I think back and I smile because when we started Urban Soul, it was in the back of a convenience store. You walked into the convenience store all the way through, as David always says, the toilet paper and everything on the shelves. And it was this window in the back. But he wanted to bring something to the Parkville community that they didn't have, you know, in the area. He didn't want to bring, something had been in that space before and they just did subs. And he said, no, I want to do something different. I want to bring the cuisine and bring a new light to it that people don't expect. And some of the things he was doing, even for a carryout, we got to the point where people would call and try to make reservations. And we would laugh and we were like, we're just a carryout. You can place an order and pick it up, but you can't come in and dine. But we would constantly get calls asking if they could make a reservation, because I guess they would look at the menu and assume that it was a dine-in space. And we would know this is something you get to carry out. I mean, he was doing short ribs at the time. And, you know, what he did was still does, you know, his technique and how he seasons them to this day. He has not stopped or changed it. He was doing, I remember, bacon wrapped pork loin, and I forgot what size we had that went along with it. It was one of the staples on the menu at the time. So some of the things that we were doing was not expected of a carryout.
He was doing farm to table. He was not doing fast food. He was doing
right. We were doing
quality.
Local and sustainable, you know, at that time as well, something that we did even with our catering business. So it's something we just continue to carry over. And was always excited about trying new things and doing different things that people could pick up in specials. And, you know, eventually just got to the point that as we would look out in the space, it would be nice. We would say if we could just take over the whole space. And eventually, fortunately, the owners of that space decided to condense their two establishments down, which emptied out the convenience store, and we shut down for like 2.5 weeks, redid the space. And that's how we became Urban Soul Gastro Cafe. And it was a dine-in space.
Right. And I'm going to skip up. I have to say right now, and I told Dave on air too, he made the best pork chop to ever pass my lips. And it's when you were at Ida B's. Mm-hmm. And let's tell everybody about Ida B's, the restaurant, and that it was named after and inspired by Ida B. Wells, who was an activist and a writer. Mm-hmm. But along with the restaurant came the ability to bring in people for special events like Michael Twitty, who is an author and food historian, Tony Tipton Martin, whose book Jubilee is about 2 centuries of African American cooking. And this, you know, just blew me away. Tell everybody about Ida B's.
Yeah, Ida B's, that was definitely that was probably, David and I always say, that was like the stepping stone for us. You know, of course, we have been in the business for a long time, but I think being able to be downtown on the corner that we were, and actually bringing people in the area that really there was no restaurants down there, and taking a big chance and doing something in the area and space. Unfortunately, just being approached for David to become a partner in something and moving forward on having a vision of a space that would highlight, you know, our cuisine in an atmosphere that's not always expected. People were just always used to it being like a carry-out food, and not being presented on plates in an upscale,
right?
Kind of like not upscale, but we just say kind of fast casual dining. I mean, we weren't like white linen, but we still wanted to give you the elevated dining experience, but still like you were coming into our home and having dinner with us. We still wanted to be warm and welcoming and inviting. And that's something we always express to our staff, you know, that were working there as well. And also being able to highlight Baltimore in that way, going around and traveling with other chefs is something that we always say Baltimore is overlooked so much in so many ways. And we always wanted to bring a spotlight on that. as we go around and say, Baltimore does have this. And we did get approached a lot when we had the restaurant. They would say, you need to bring this here, like to New York or DC. I'm like, but you already have everything. Why do you? It does not make sense to me that they would say that this is needed in those spaces. But we felt it was something that was needed in Baltimore, and we're happy that we were able to do that and bring people in and expose Baltimore to our culinary world, or the people that, we're always around, like you said, like Michael Twitty and Tony Tipton Martin and Carla Hall and Chef BJ Dennis. We had so many people that came through there and was so grateful, and doing the diaspora dinners that we're doing, and educating people in that way as well. So as much as we could do in that space with the food, with the people coming in, and even with the decor, some of the things that we had in there, it was all about telling the story completely. And that's what we wanted to bring to Baltimore. And I'm grateful and thankful that we were able to accomplish it in that space.
You were in that space able to open up the dialogue about the African diaspora. And you and David had made great impacts and inroads in the things that you've done. You went to Africa. Didn't you go to Africa with Michael Twitty?
Yes, we did. Yep. We were actually there on the trip with Michael Twitty and Chef BJ Dennis, the Gullah Geechee chef. So we were all together on that trip. And that still to this day is something David and I continue to talk about. We always feel badly. People say they're talking about Africa again, and we can't help it, because that was life-changing for us. We always say that, to be able to step on the continent of something we talk about, but now physically be there and experience it. When David would recreate things, we would constantly say, this is his interpretation. And we had to say that because we had never been on the continent of Africa, so we don't really know what those things taste like, what it smells like. We can't say that. We just know what it is. We know what the ingredients are and how they come together. But until we got to step on that continent and experience the food, the people, everything, it changed everything. It just opened us up more. It was something that we will never forget. It was an experience. Like, we're trying to schedule now, when are we going back to make our next trip? And it's something that we're planning now and looking forward to, and try to actually coordinate with Michael to go back again. So that's something that is always ongoing, and doing the historical aspects, all the things that we're trying to research. It's something that we're always going to be doing. You never know everything. You're always going to be learning. We don't know everything. We're still learning, even when it comes to just diving into Maryland and Baltimore history as well, and bringing all of those things together, because that's what comprises us, both David and myself. Is all of that history, Africa, South North Carolina, Maryland and Baltimore. That's what comprises us, and that's what we're trying to bring forward, when we do either the food that we do and the stories that we tell.
Well, you tell stories. I know that you're involved with I'm going to get it wrong, Maloma?
You said it right, Maloma.
I got it right. Yay! Heritage group, and that has to do with South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And tell people a little bit about that, because you're going to tell it a whole lot better than me.
Yeah, so the Maloma Heritage Center came about from the trip of going to Africa. Something being with Michael, BJ, Ada Inago Brown, who was actually the coordinator of the trip. And we just felt like there was something that's definitely needed here, a space of their heritage culture, and being able to not only be able to tell stories there or cook food there, but also to archive the history. That's a big component of what we plan on doing on that land as well. But the important thing about choosing that area, and the initial reason why we did it, was because a lot of the land that was down in that area was actually being taken from Black owners. And that was our whole initial concept was like, let's go save some land, help them save their land and give it to them. And then we wound up looking at what's available and said, we're going to purchase land. And a group of 8 of us got together to develop the land trust that we have. And we purchased 38 acres of land on St. Helena Island in South Carolina. And a lot of the history of who all of us are stems from that area as well. As anyone knows, when the enslaved came into this country, they always talk about the first coming into Virginia, but the majority, a lot of them came in through South Carolina. So a lot of us have roots. There's so many people that say, yeah, my family came from and migrated up north, or they migrated south and went Midwest. So you had those that migrated and went west. I mean, it's, it's so many different ways that people migrated, but a lot stemmed from South Carolina, even if eventually they went from being enslaved there and was enslaved in other states, but they came in through South Carolina. So we felt like that was an important part of being there. And also just being able to help preserve and bring jobs and a lot of things to that Gullah Geechee community and in that area to help strengthen it and keep it strong.
And keep the history going.
And keep the history going. So we're looking forward to it. Things are steadily moving. We're trying to get used to the slower pace of the South, but but it is what it is. But I mean, because it took us like a year to settle on the property. So we were grateful that we did that in June of 2021 of last year. So, and we celebrated that for Juneteenth. We actually were able to do that. And now we're just trying to move forward and getting the approval of the layout. We just finished with the architect and the engineer and the layout of how we have everything structured on the land and trying to get that finalized. And hopefully that's done soon so that we can move forward and we can start building the easement and all. And so that's what we're working towards now.
I'm excited to see how this grows. I really am. I want to get to Heirloom Group because that's where you are now. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a discussion on that. And everybody, the website is coming up. Tanya's Instagram is coming up. You can always reach her at heirloom.com. Now, let me explain. The spelling is H, the number 3, IRLOOM.com. The number 3 is used like an E. So H3IRLOOM.com, and you can reach out to Tanya about anything that we're talking about here today. So Heirloom Food Group, it is more than just the Sinclair space. Tell us more.
So the Heirloom Food Group, where do I begin? I love it. So it's a partnership. We always want to express, I know people see David and myself as the face of it, which is great because we're the chefs, but it actually comprises of 4 of us. Floyd and Linda Taliaferro of the Maisler Group partnered with us to bring Heirloom Food Group into fruition. Linda and the Maisler Group and Floyd, they actually own the building that we're in, the Sinclair. So this whole building is owned by them. And then we partnered to bring about Heirloom Food Group into the space. And of course, it started out, catering, COVID. But we knew that with COVID, just having one stream or one type of revenue does not work anymore. You never know what's going to happen. So we started putting those things in line when we started the food group. We know it's going to be multiple facets to it. So Heirloom Food Group has, of course, the catering that we do. We have our H3 dining experiences that we launched in May of 2021. We just did our 4th one in February and looking forward to our next one, which will be in June. We started a product line and we launched that in February of 2021. So a lot started in 2021 with our hot sauces. That was the first product that we decided to put out. That has done amazingly well in less than a year. That we then realized it had only been a year. And to be the hot sauce to be awarded, at least the SOSU, as a finalist in Garden and Guns Made in the South Awards, and then to be highlighted in Martha Stewart Living. We're truly grateful for all those things that have been coming to us with that. And then we have 2 concepts that we've been working on that we're going to launch soon. They will be launched at the Baltimore Farmers Market coming in April. So it's 2 concepts under the Heirloom Food Group that we'll be launching. And so many other things that we'll be announcing. We will say that, Heirloom Food Group has 68 acres of land that was purchased, and we'll be able to talk more about what the name of that is going to be called, the farm that we're starting there, and all the things that we plan on doing on their property. And I know it was in wholesale. We do wholesale dining as well. I guess you could say food. We don't even know what to call that yet. It just came about with just some of the businesses wanting some of our products to sell in their locations. And Black Acres is one that sells. They sell our breakfast sandwiches there for now. Couples Tea will be selling some items, and hopefully soon Sophomore Coffee will be selling some of my items. So it's things are steadily going, and I think I probably covered everything. It seems like something is always new that's coming about, and we don't say no.
Don't worry about it. I'll give you a chance to wrap it up at the end. Now, I'm going to get back to some of your baking. I saw on Facebook or your Instagram, what was the inspiration for your sticky bun biscuit, which was sweet potato. It's a sweet potato biscuit, tamarind glaze, which is a tart sour, salt, grains of paradise. Now, I know grains of paradise because I worked for Van Spices for a period of time, but most people don't understand what grains of paradise are. But texture, salt, sweet, sour. Did you just wake up one morning and say, let me put these all together? What?
No, kind of, sort of, believe it or not. So that week that I played around, I always call it my test kitchen because, ideas pop in my head. Will this work? I have to test it. And of course, our staff and my husband, everybody's the guinea pigs. Try it. But that week was actually Monday, I think, was National Sticky Bun Day. Right. And Tuesday or Wednesday was National Cook a Sweet Potato. And I know I have been wanting to do a sweet potato biscuit, but I was like, I just don't want to do a sweet potato biscuit. That's not enough. And I was like, what if I merge the two together and make a sticky bun biscuit? But I can't just do a regular sticky bun glaze. But then I think about elements of the African continent or the diaspora, hence the tamarind being added to it. Hence the grains of paradise being added to the pecans when I was roasting them with the salt. That's how that all came together. And I said, let's see if I do this, will it work out? And that they loved it. I said, I guess that will be, that's why I said coming soon, because that's going to be one of the ones I will have at the farmer's market as I continue to play around with different ways of making a twist. When I do desserts, anyone that knows me, it's never just, here's a sweet dessert. There's always going to be elements of salt, sour. I just like having that umami flavor in my desserts and not just like a one note of just sugar. So I have a habit of always trying to blend in things that you don't normally expect in a dessert.
Right. So you're covering the tongue's palate, and you're also putting texture in there as well. What makes a great biscuit?
It's funny because I know we have so many friends in the South, and they swear by, what is it, white lily flour, making the best biscuits. But I actually use King Arthur's. I tag them every time I do a post. It's the only flour that I use. It's unbromated, unbleached, non-GMO. That's why. If anybody knows, when I bake, I do so hard people love sweets. I love sweets. And I said, but if you're going to eat it, can I try to make it as healthy as possible? Which is on the back end. And that's making sure that anything that I use is non-GMO. There's no artificial coloring or dyes. I'm very conscious about all those things when I bake. And, but I would say to me is technique. I think you have to, because I know in the past, I've given my recipe to, people that I was training at the restaurant. And it was times that the biscuit did not come out like my biscuit. And it was it was the recipe, but it didn't come out like my biscuit. And it was because of the technique. And I used to tell them, you have to do this, because if you don't do this, it's not going to come out right. And, sometimes it takes people seeing it and experiencing it themselves to really believe what I was saying. They were like, no, if I just hurry up and do it this way. And it didn't. It either came out it didn't rise, or it just came out like heavy, like a rock, or I don't know what they did to it. But I always say the ingredients can play an important part, but I say the technique is really what makes a great biscuit. It's all about the technique.
Right. You don't want to overwork it.
You don't want to overwork it. That's like that in anything when it comes to baking, though. If anybody knows, you don't want to overwork your cake batter, or you're going to wind up with a dense cake. I mean, it's really making sure you don't overwork anything when it comes to baking. You just have to have patience. Take your time. Don't overbeat it. Do things too fast. All of that. Don't over knead things. But that's why I like baking. It's therapeutic to me. David can't stand it because he doesn't have the patience. A lot of chefs don't. They hate the baking component. Well, that's my world.
Well, you have to have patience.
Yes, lots of patience.
Okay. Modern Soul Conversations, the live show that you do on Instagram for @BlackFoodFolks. I can't say it very fast because I took over my tongue. Are there any memorable moments? And I know we've decided that maybe you've done around 100, close to what I've done with mine.
Right.
Any memorable moments from your interviews or something that sticks out?
Oh my gosh, we've had so many. Because everybody is memorable to us. Everybody, everyone that we've highlighted locally, people that are nationally known, internationally known. I think David, I'm going to have to say, he's probably going to say, when we had Dr. Jessica on there, she actually joined us when she was in Martha's Vineyard on her porch. And I remember having a conversation with her, and it was just the most relaxed thing in the world. And I think one of our good friends had, from that conversation and another one, had named our talks. She called it porch talk. She said it was like you're just sitting on a porch and talking with friends. And we love that, because we always tell people, our interviews are very casual conversations. It's, of course, we're asking questions about yourself, and, we might get into some conversations, that get very deep, but it's still like we're just sitting together on a porch or at the table and just really having this one-on-one conversation. And these are the things that just happen to come out. We're so happy to have started it. We started at the time of COVID. We actually started it originally on David's Instagram when we started in May, and I think 2 months later, like June or July, because Black Food Folks had their IG Live, and we were like, we need to just come together, because I feel like we're like gonna wind up crossing. Like I will have something on, and you have something on, and we feel like we want to hit all of the same thing, at the same time, and we want to get everybody in. So we didn't want to have, that conflict. And when I talked with Clay about it, he was like, yeah, just come on. You can do Tuesdays at 3. And that's where we've been ever since then on Black Food Folks. And we're actually the only ones that are still going. We had talked about ending it, but it's still so many people that pop up in the industry that, people still need to know about it. And they might not find out about it unless we still do the IG Live. And that's why we still have carried it on. Still highlighting if there's anyone new here in Baltimore, which we did when Los Hermanos, their tequila company. Oh my goodness, we had talked to them before they had fully launched, and now they're just blowing up. It is amazing to watch these businesses that we saw them launch and see where they are now, and it just makes us smile. And once again, it's letting people know around this country, and in some cases all over the world, because we have people that have chimed in from Paris and Africa at times, and they get to find out about the people that we're talking with. And we always say, so if someone visits Baltimore, that's why we like talking about the people here. They know who to look up when they come. And anybody that we highlight, if you go to visit that city, you know who to look up when you go there. And that's why we love doing what we do. David and I say continuously, it's not about us. It's about the community and what we're trying to do to highlight and support those that's in it. And it's a labor of love. And that's why we still do it. Even if we got craziness, somehow we still pause at 3 o'clock on Tuesday if we can, and get it done. There's times that we couldn't, but when we can, we still make sure that we do the show.
Right. I have a question, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer it, and maybe you can because there's a big selection. It says, I'm looking for the most authentic African cuisine available in Baltimore, D.C. Are there any venues you highly recommend?
You know, there's actually some. If it's a way that you can give me your contact information, because I'm not going to think of it. That's just me off the top of my head. Of course, you have Nyla's that is on York Road, and Nyla's is Senegalese cuisine.
Senegalese, yeah.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. There's another one that's actually going towards, I think it's probably Montgomery or PG County, that I actually came across that was highly spoken of. That's why I said I would have to. I apologize because I can't remember the name. I haven't been able to go there myself as of yet, as you can imagine, because our schedule can be crazy.
Right.
I'm trying to
Well,
think where else. There's another place in Baltimore. It's another place as well that's in Baltimore, but there's so many places that are highlighting African cuisine. If you go to actually one that was nominated for James Beard in DC is called Kane, Peter Prime's restaurant. He also got the Michelin Bib Gourmand as well. So that's one that I would suggest going to and what they do as far as the cuisine there. So that's a place that I would recommend is definitely Kane in DC.
What you can do is if you think of the names, you can go in under the comments on this show and put that information in if you have the time.
Okay.
I can keep talking. There's so many things that we can discuss, and maybe it's another time, or we'll it's Women's Month. We just had Black History Month, and to see you, Baltimore has Kat Smith, who is doing Just Call Me Chef and grouping Black women chefs together. There is Elle Simone, and he's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks, who is She Chef. And it's so fabulous to see the growth and the women coming forward, whether Black or white. But definitely, I think Baltimore has really had a great nucleus. Can't talk. It's a great center for this. My tongue just doesn't work. I'm going to ask you a couple of the typical questions because we're running long, and maybe we'll do this again sometime and we can continue. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you had a new talent, what would that new talent be?
That's a good question. And I know you said that a new talent. Being that I had other talents that I did not utilize as a career. What would that talent be? Oh, man.
Well, let me tell you mine.
Let me say this. I would say sewing. Okay. As crazy as that sounds, it's still another creative aspect. I went to school for fashion, didn't stick with fashion design because I love to draw and I loved artwork more. So I wound up going to fashion illustration and merchandising. So I never really got into the sewing.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you can give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that be?
My 18-year-old self. I'm trying to remember my 18-year-old self. Be fearless. I think I was a little fearful when I was younger. It's some things that I wish that I could have said, take a risk, take a chance, go for it, and don't be scared. I think don't be fearless. I mean, be fearless is what I would say to my 18-year-old self.
Okay. Your epic culinary fail.
I've had, it's like broadcasting us. Trust me, I've had several of them.
Just several.
My fails, I've always turned into successes.
That's
like when things really mess, like I said, things mess up, and trust me, with my desserts, and somehow it went into, and I created something else. I don't even know how. I'm really trying to think. My epic fail.
Well,
that's bad.
Well, that's good.
I was always raised to not think as anything as a failure. I think that's probably my problem. And David and I are both passionate. He said, "Yo, you can fix this." You know, I said, I don't remember the failures because I fixed it. Maybe that's what it is.
And the last question, what didn't I ask you that I should have?
You asked a lot of questions. I think you asked all the questions. I'm being truly honest. I don't think it's something that you forgot to ask me.
All right. Well, I want to remind folks that you can reach Tanya at heirloom.com, and that's HIRLOOM.com. All the information will float up in the details. Definitely reach out, take advantage of all the different things that they do. They have been amazing. And Tanya, I want to thank you for being my very special guest on my 100th episode.
Thank you.
My regards to David. And let me give you a big mwah. And until we see each other in person, I look forward to that.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Good luck, much good fortune. And I'm just going to make a couple of announcements for this coming week. All right, everyone. Next week's show, we will be talking with Kathy Barrow about her latest cookbook being released this month called Bagels, Schmears, and a Nice Piece of Fish. I made the bagels. They were wonderful. Other cookbooks from Kathy is Mrs. Wheelbarrow's Practical Pantry, When Pies Fly, Pie Squared. Kathy Barrow writes Bring It column in the Washington Post food section. She has written for the New York Times, Garden and Gun, Modern Farmer, Savoir or Savoir, however you want to pronounce it, Southern Living, NPR, and National Geographic, among others. I want to thank you for joining the 100th episode. And I also hit another monumental moment. I went over 2,500 followers on my Instagram account, which is at Dara Cooks. So I'm celebrating both. This show can be seen on Jay Moore's Facebook page in the archives, jaymoreliving.com. And it is always available, all the past shows, to go back in the archives and view them. They have been really very inspiring, fun. So do that. And then also, if you get a chance, go to jaymoreliving.com and look up my answers to some of the questions you used to hear me asking my guests. Some of them are quite funny, I must say. I appreciate you tuning in on a regular basis, and we love it when you share with your friends and family, and it has helped us grow. So, as I always end the show, may your plates always, always remain full.